This clip is from my show AFC North Talk that I do with Sonny, Ace, and J Rock. Make sure you guys check this clip out where we're talking about the AFC North. Also, if you want to see the full clip, it's available at AFC North Talk on YouTube. So check it out.
Game in, and it kind of looks like what I said about Derrick Henry is what it is about Derrick Henry in that system. We'll see if that ends up being true. But yeah, I mean, Baltimore, they look like a team that's very similar to what they were last year, a really good defense. But offensively, I see a team that is far too reliant on Lamar Jackson. Lamar has to do way too much for this offense. And when Lamar has to do way too much for this offense, that's going to show itself either in the playoffs or in a game like that. He's going to eventually run out of gas or not make the play that he's been having to make all day. And shout out to Isaiah Likely. He did help Lamar Jackson out in tremendous touchdown catch. Like, I'm not saying nobody on the offense showed up, but Lamar had to lead the team in rushing yards. He had to be the quarterback of the team. This isn't much different than it was last year. And this is the stuff that we said, hey, Baltimore needs to fix this in order to get over the hump. The wide receivers weren't getting much separation. How many of the big plays that Lamar Jackson made while throwing were on broken plays or on plays where he's extending and you're outside the structure of the play, right? I think the Rashad Bateman play was that. Same thing with the couple of big Isaiah Likely plays.
Yeah, that was big. Yeah, he missed a couple on their structure plays too.
Yeah, and there was some, I mean, like, I don't really blame him for the 2 throws he missed at the end.
Yeah, no, not those.
Like, those are just tough throws. And you've been asking this man to make tough throws all game. And eventually, it's just not going to happen when you press the button that much. Kansas City does not have to press the Pat Mahomes button this much to win a football game. But just if you're Baltimore, it's like you got to spam Lamar Jackson the whole game to win a game offensively. That's got to be a problem. I mean, I don't really subscribe to the fact that he's not going to make it through the year because he's running the ball a lot. Lamar Jackson has been the leading rusher on the Baltimore Ravens since 2019. It's not new, right? Like, I'm not worried about his durability because of that. He's been durable. Some years he's done that. Some years he's caught injuries. It just kind of is what it is. But I just think that this philosophy with Baltimore, if they're talking about being a team that breaks through and wins a championship, this is going to get in their way. You can't rely on your quarterback this much offensively and think that that's going to hold up in the playoffs, in the championship games, win 4 games in a row, get to a Super Bowl, win it. And ultimately, I see Baltimore being similar to what they were last year, which is, hey, they're probably going to be in contention to win the North. They might just straight out win the North. They're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to get a home playoff game, right, if they win the division. But what are they going to do past that? I wasn't convinced of anything that showed me that they're going to be any different. Maybe in a month or two, they get this Derrick Henry thing right, and it looks way different. But from what we saw there on Thursday, they're a good team. Baltimore's a great team, and you might miss that because the tone of my monologue here is not positive. But they're a great team. They'll do what they did last year at the very it's a fair expectation for them to do that. But at the end of the day, I can't walk away from that game being like, man, Baltimore, it might be different this year. I don't know anybody who is on this panel that would feel that way, other than just hoping for it to be the case.
Let me start with this. Early in the game, I don't know what Zach Ward was doing. I don't know. Zach Ward, the defensive coordinator. I don't know what he was thinking. But you had linebackers on wide receivers on a one-on-one. A man. And I'm like, what linebacker can cover any of these receivers one-on-one on a post? Roquan got exposed 1 or twice, but the guy, they ate him alive through the game, which I had no idea he was going to start or play this much, was Malik Harrison. Malik Harrison got juked left and right. And I'm like, I thought Trent Simpson was injured. I'm like, he's not in the field. He must be injured. He must be, because Malik Harrison is getting abused anytime. And Mahomes was just going after him. Again, he went after Rowe once when Sheree Rice. But we're talking running backs, tight ends, receivers. Anything Malik was nearby, he was going against Malik Harrison. And Malik was just getting, again, abused. And for some reason, there was no adjustment. There was no adjustment for a while. Then once that got adjusted, that the linebacking core was not on receivers, then Pat Mahomes had more difficult time. I will say this: a guy that I don't want because we have a meme of the pressure, but Odafe was putting the pressure all game. Was Mahomes wasn't like completely vibing there in the pocket. There was pressure. There was no sacks, which drives me insane. But there was definitely pressure. So for me, that was a problem. The O line. I forgot who of you guys mentioned the O line. The right side specifically. Voorhees. So we talk about three new guys. Voorhees in the left guard. We have Fahalele, which shoot me now, right guard, and right tackle. We had a combination between Rosengarten and Voorhees was doing great. Voorhees was doing great. Voorhees did good. That left side actually was really solid. The right side was not. Fahalele was just completely missing. Chris Jones was eating them alive. That right side. There was a point in the game that you see Chris Jones, he was just on the right side against Fahalele or Rosengarten also whiffed from one really bad, but he was just not good. So and the O line, I think not they didn't allow Derrick Henry to get into his flow on the running side, and that's when they said, okay, we really cannot run in between the tackles today, right? Now Mark can run between the tackles because broken plays because we can just make misdirection and keep Lamar can keep it. But other than that, there was no running between the tackles because for all the things that you're gonna talk Justin Hill, he just rushed it once. Where he excelled was on the open field on a dump play, and the open. He is a shifty guy, and that's how he had all his yardage. Running the ball, there was nothing there, nothing. On the passing side, look, Isaiah likely had a hell of a game. Zay Flowers had a hell of a game. Bateman had a couple of clutch catches. Lamar played 47 minutes of hell of a football, and then at the end, he did miss two throws. The last one was a great throw. Likely didn't get his feet in bounds. I mean, I'm not blaming either one in there, but the first down throw to Likely should have been catch or should have been throw better. The Zay Flowers pop open, he should have seen Zay, right? So those plays he needs to make as a two-time MVP. He needs to make that. The O line is the biggest concern. If you say, Sonny, look, I agree with Q right now. And the Ravens after the game were like, oh yeah, or Lamar, I think the Chiefs are not my kryptonite. No, right now they are your kryptonite because if you check Lamar Jackson's record against any team, there's two teams that he has struggled. One is the Chiefs, and the other one is the Steelers. Those are the two teams that usually give him the most grievance. That's his worst record is against those two teams. The rest of the league has hell of a record. All right, you guys want to do next?
Let's do Cleveland.
Man. Let's do Cleveland. Let's do Cleveland.
Let's do the Bengals. Let's do the Bengals.
No. I need to talk about this because a lot of people are assuming I'm with. Let's talk about Cleveland.
Okay, let's do Cleveland. Let's do it.
Actually, I'll give you the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the worst quarterback games I've ever seen from Cleveland side. It was bad. A 9 QBR, a 9.7.
I never seen that low.
Yeah, you know who had a higher one? Bryce Young.
Ooh,
Bryce Young. Daniel Jones had a 12. Dang. They telling me right now we put Daniel Jones in last week. That'd be 60% improvement. It was nobody anticipated he would be that bad. Even if you thought Watson was cooked in cheeks, nobody is anticipating he throw 42 passes and still be under 170 yards passing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He looked dysfunctional out there. He looked like a guy whose mind is nowhere near football. Like, if he has another game like that, he has to take a sabbatical and Jameis has to play. And if he comes back from that sabbatical or not, I don't care. Because you can't drop a 9 QBR and just think shit gonna be cool and breezy once you come back. A 9? Tell me what quarterback that's excusable for. No. Like, what's y'all backup ace in Cincinnati?
Jake Browner.
Jake Browner throw a 9 QBR. You about to see what your third string on.
Yep.
If Josh Johnson throw a 9 QBR, you about to see what's up with the practice squad.
Yep.
Hey, when Justin Fields or Russell Wilson throws a 9 QBR, you about to be ready to put the other one in, ain't it?
Yep.
Like that's insane.
The third string got Kyle Allen.
The only reason he's getting another game is because he has all of this shit that we done invested in him. If this were a normal quarterback, he would be benched.
Yeah.
He would be benched. This is insane. And you know what? It's not just the one game. I know Browns fans have been telling me it's been one game, man. You know, it's just week one. Hey, if he would have had a normal bad game and went out there and played like Justin Fields or something like that and had a 40 QBR, okay, whatever. You know, it wasn't great. It wasn't great, but you know, it's week one. He's learning a new offense. They're playing together. Okay, I can excuse that. But a 9? You can't be better than Bryce Young? In any situation, you got to be better than Bryce Young and Daniel Jones. I don't care. you a 3-time Pro Bowler. There's no world where I can sit here and excuse you being worse than I would expect Kenny Pickett to be if he started. Like, that's just not there. I talk a lot about other teams' quarterbacks, but I keep it real about mine. That's inexcusable. He did not show that level of bad play consistently last year. This is alarming. He's had 3 games like this. The first time it happened, we were willing to write it off. 700-day delay, first game back. He's playing in Houston. What a weird game. You know, and that was a 22. Oh, no, my bad. A 29 QBR game, by the way. He put up a 29 in that game.
I've never seen a 9, to be honest.
Yeah. Last year in Pittsburgh, weirdest game we've ever seen. Nick Chubb gets his knee destroyed halfway through. It was just a weird game. Okay, he's got to play better than that going forward. That was a 15.9 QBR. Now we talking about a 9? Hey, if he does not have, and I am being dead serious with this, if he does not have an improvement that is mind-blowing, like we got to look back at week one and think to ourselves, it is shocking he played that bad. If it's anything other than shocking, if it's just normal, if it's a slight improvement from week one to week two, I need him to be so good in week 2 that we can't believe week 1 happened. If it's anything short of that, prepare. It's time to start wrapping it up. Pay out whatever you got to pay out. Sit out whatever you got to sit out. Work around it however you got to work around it. It's a wrap. Because a 9 QBR, that can't be on the table for a team trying to win a championship. A 9 QBR cannot be on the table.
To me, I think, like, I don't want to say that you're at the crossroads week 1. But you got to be thinking about it. Like, if he goes out, like you were saying, and has another bad performance like that,
you got to consider it.
At the end of the day, even if he comes out and has a mediocre season, you're still thinking of moving on from this guy.
Okay, so let's talk about these Bengals, because if anything surprised me, Ace, was the Bengals. And when I saw T. Higgins was out, I think either Saturday or early Sunday morning, I was like, okay, it didn't face me. And I said last year during the year that the best Bengals team was when they decided to run Mixon a little bit, right? And they were somehow balanced, and then that way they can take some of the action, right?
But Mixon looked pretty good this weekend.
Huh? He looked amazing.
He looked pretty good on another team, huh? With no Zach Taylor, huh?
Amazing.
He looked like a different man out there running. I saw one clip. I was like, God damn, this Joe Mixon.
You look happy.
Oh,
he looked like this the whole time. He had
the shackles have been taken off. So let me back a few things up. I don't care about adding context for L's. A L is a L. Bengals lost. They shouldn't have lost this game. Patriots were the better team. They outcoached them. The weird part about this game is when we were here on Wednesday, Jamar Chase still was kind of up in the air, right? And it looked like it was trending towards him playing. He was practicing, right?
Yep.
Then we get to, like, I think it's Thursday. He's no longer practicing again. Friday, he's like, I'm going to be a game time decision. It starts to get weird. T. Higgins is out. The day before, T. Higgins was like, I'm in the best shape of my life. He's out. And I'm like, okay, does this have to do with gripes with the front office? Like, what's going on here? So at that point, we're not knowing whether or not it's just going to be Trenton Irwin, Yoshi, like Jermaine Burton, like the I don't know, the Migos that we didn't even expect, right? Mm-hmm. So all the way up into the game, nobody knew if Jamar Chase was playing or not. Like, we were like, okay, he might play, he might not. It's seeming like this contract thing is a thing. Then he comes out, but the vibes were just weird. It's like, all right, no T, who's practiced the entire week, so they didn't have time to kind of change the game plan. That's still not an excuse, but it was a weird kind of start to the game. right? If you would have told me coming into the season which unit, even with T. Higgins out, even with the Jamar Chase situation, because I think if Jamar Chase just shows up street clothes before the game like he did, he's going to do his thing. It's Jamar Chase. You could have told me which unit I would be more worried about between the offense and the defense. I would have told you the offense. I mean, I would have told you the defense, right? Yeah. Because this is a situation, like I've said, I gave Ramondre Stevenson his credit. Patriots didn't do anything that was mind-blowing. They did exactly what I said that they would do. They would come in, they would try to establish the run, they would play really good defense because, and I said it on the show, Gerard Mayo is a defensive guy. He's going to be able to do some things against the Bengals defense. The craziest thing is he just did what everybody does against the Bengals defense. I'm just going to run 2 high shell, and Zach Taylor's not going to run the ball. We're just going to put pretty much all of the attention on Jamar Chase. But the thing that was shocking to me in this game, defense didn't really play that bad. The defense missed a lot of tackles. Mm-hmm. Defense missed 14 tackles. That is what hurt the most. They had Ramondre Stevenson dead to rights in the backfield. They let him go. It's another 14, 20 yards. It's like every single time that they had a chance to make a play in terms of one to try to stop the bleeding, they were able to rip it off, or somebody missed a tackle or something happened here and there. Now, I get that. I still don't feel like the defense is what lost them the game. The offense and Joe Burrow is what lost them the game. And I always talk about Joe Shiesty. He's the guy. He's supposed to elevate. I don't know where he was at in this game because there were times where Jamar Chase was stacking guys and he's just not taking the shot. He's not even looking at them. He's not like he's seeing ghosts that aren't even there. His protection was solid. Like, you're going to look at a box score and see 3 sacks, but they settled in and he had pockets for days. So it wasn't like, I don't know if he's kids seeing ghosts, Kanye and Cuddy. Like, I don't know what's going on, Joe. But from my perspective, Joe didn't have his best game. Like, he turned into Andy Dalton. You see the cover 2 high shell. You're not even looking to see if Jamar Chase is even open. You're dumping it down to Zach Moss. And I'm just like, this is what we're doing. And from my perspective, just from an offensive philosophy, you guys know that I don't like Zach Taylor. So I'm going to give more blame to Joe for this. I still don't like what Zach Taylor and company and Dan Pitcher did in this game either, because we were sold this offseason after Joe Burrow went down. I know most people didn't watch the Bengals, but the offense kind of transformed. It was a lot more under center. It was a lot more play action. It was a lot less gun. It was a lot less empty. And we were told, hey, we're going to mix some of that stuff in now. Like, we know that we only run, empty with Burrow and all of that, but we're going to do some under center stuff. We're going to do some play action. They didn't do any of it, dog. They didn't do any of that. They barely did that.
Does it bother you more or less that they made the big show about this being different for the start of the season? Like, they really made that a point of emphasis. They even
they wanted, because they felt like, okay, in the past we struggled. Joe didn't play in the preseason. Bengals always start slow. That's the narrative. This time it's like Joe Burrow's playing in the preseason. We got what looks like a layup, and it's like Patriots week 1. Cool. It's not a Browns week 1. It's not a Ravens week 1, week 2. It's a Patriots week 1, a team that doesn't even know who is quarterback is right now. You lost to a guy and Jacoby Brissett who threw for 120 yards, dog. He didn't even he threw for 120 yards. And I'm not saying he's trash. Don't get me wrong. Jacoby Brissett did what he was supposed to do, especially with his legs. I was more impressed with his legs because there were third downs where he was able to pick them up because people just slept on Jacoby Brissett's legs. But I still can't tell you who some of the Patriots receivers are because I don't know them. The only person that I knew that entire day was Ramondre Stevenson. But the other thing that I would give them credit for, and I will say that was bad about our defense, which is what we typically say, there's no rush outside of Trey Hendrickson, dog. There is no rush outside of Trey Hendrickson. If he is not on the field, there is no rush. And for this to be a team on the other side of the ball that was starting Michael Jordan, literally the guy that got Joe Burrow hurt his rookie season, was missing some guys on that offensive line. I went into the game thinking we would have the advantage in the trenches. No, the Patriots completely controlled the trenches. You would have thought that this was a veteran offensive line out there, the way that the Bengals were not able to get any kind of pressure on them. The Bengals, to me, you can't come out as an offense and not score in the first half at all. I don't care about the fumbles. I know people are going to talk about, well, if we didn't have the fumble or doesn't look, dog. Turnover battle, it is a proven fact. When you lose the turnover battle, you lose the game 80% of the time. I don't want to hear about, oh, he should have held on to it. If we do that, we win this game. At the end of the day, you 0-1, dog. Nobody's going to remember that fumble. Nobody's going to remember it like, oh, Tanner Hudson had it and he fumbled. We might remember it. Nobody else is talking about that. That's not going to be in the highlights unless you're talking about for the Patriots defense. But at the end of the day, they got to make sure that they are prepared. This seemed like a game to me where y'all were looking at Kansas City. Y'all thought this was going to be a layup. You looking at week 2, Kansas City. All right, let's run through the motions. We got this. It's the Patriots. Let's look ahead to Kansas City. Now you're in a situation where Kansas City is knocking at your front door. They seem to be rolling after you just saw them against Baltimore. You cannot come out like you just did, or else you're going to get blown out. I'm going to keep it a buck. Like, I know we get up for Kansas City, but if you come out like you just did this last game, they are going to kill you. So, from my standpoint, supremely disappointed. Like, I would have taken the ugly W, but the biggest thing to me and why Zach Taylor needs to be on some kind of watch list right now was the decision with 3 minutes to go in the game, or slightly over 2 minutes to go in the game. You still had 3 timeouts, 2-minute warning, 4th down. I get it if you're in your own territory, but give Joe Burrow a chance on 4th down. You paid this man 200 and whatever million to punt the ball away. That's what we're doing with the game on the line. Like, Zach, that's the call. That's what we're doing. Like, Jamar Chase even ends up getting a penalty on the play because he doesn't want to go off the field. So we end up, because Jamar Chase didn't get on the field and we punted the ball, we get a penalty for that because we should have gone for it. Like, we didn't see anything all day for us to be like, you know what? Our offense looks so good. I'm going to trust them with no timeouts and all of that. I'm going to hope that our defense, who has not been tackling the whole game, and we know Ramondre Stevenson is getting the ball, we're going to trust that they're going to stop him. Then we're going to get the ball with no timeouts and know that we haven't taken any deep shots down the field except once to Yoshi, which drew a flag, by the way, Zach. So you might, even if they run cover 2 shell, you might still want to take some shots. But at the end of the day, bro, like, you're not trusting Joe Burrow. Like, the last time I remember this happening, 49ers game a couple of seasons ago, don't do it again. Like, what's the worst that could have happened? We still ended up losing. Fourth and like, what, 3 or 4? Like, you don't think Joe Burrow can get that? If you don't think Joe Burrow can get that, then what are we even doing here? Like, what's the point of having Joe Burrow if you think that you still have Andy Dalton and you're still making Andy Dalton decisions? Because at the end of the day, I don't care how bad of a game Joe was having, you still got to give him that opportunity to try to do something. But as I said, this game to me is on Joe. A little bit of that blame goes to the staff. Missed tackling, because I'm not going to say defense, because it's a miracle that they only gave up 16 points given the circumstances of them fumbling and giving the ball right to the Patriots in the red zone. So to me, like, it's not on the defense. I can't go with that. We'll see what happens. Hopefully this Chase situation and this T situation isn't going to be more of a story than what's going on the field. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that was a nasty loss. You got to move on from that and just think about week 2.
Ace, did you just say T. Higgins said he was in the best shape of his life?
Yeah, he said something along those lines. I don't know if it was that exact words.
It's over, dog. That's Allen Robinson now. Like, don't sign him to that second contract, whoever it is. That man said, what? Yeah, I think there's a bit of an issue here. And let's talk about the larger trend in the NFL that's going on. Joe Burrow wasn't the only one that threw for 164 yards this week. Jacoby Brissett was not the lowest passer in the NFL this week with 121. There were like 17 quarterbacks this week in week 1 that were under 200 yards. That's an amazing number compared to what we've been seeing. That means a lot of these guys are on pace for like less than 3,000 yards.
Yep.
It's not been the case. Ace referenced this a little bit. He's talking about the 2 high revolution, where people will send those 2 high shells. They will keep safeties over top, and they'll make you beat them with the run. Look at how San Francisco beat the New York Jets. They just ran at that 2 high shell, right?
Mhm.
And my question is, if that's where the meta is going with the NFL, what we saw with Joe Mixon looking like a new man in Houston, and then we see the Bengals rush game, and it wasn't bad, but it was the Bengals rush game. It was 70 yards. It was like under 4.5 a carry. It's been what it's been. And they're really hesitant to go to it, which is the bigger part. They had 16 rushes in a game that was 16-10. They ran the ball 16 times. You know how many times the Patriots ran the ball?
A lot.
25 alone with Ramondre Stevenson. If you just add Jacoby Brissett and Antonio Gibson, you get 14. That's almost equivalent to what the Bengals did, and that's including 4 Joe Burrow runs. We're talking about 12 carries for running backs. 12 carries
in a game that was close, not something
not
where,
a blowout.
not a blowout.
This shit was within like a score the whole time, and they ran the ball 12 times. You got to call it out for what it is. That's the issue. You got nothing that indicated that you should have ran the ball that little. Zach Moss had 9 carries for 44 yards. That's 4.5. That's 4.9. That's good in a touchdown. There's nothing that indicates to the Bengals that they, like, if this were a case of them not being incentivized to run the ball, I would honestly be less concerned because I'm like, well, ain't nobody doing nothing with it. They can run the ball. They violently choose not to. Even in a game, like Ace mentioned, where it's 16-10, even in a game where you don't have your second best receiver.
And only gave Jamar 6 targets.
6. Yeah, we gave Ian it's the same amount of targets as Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Oof.
What is this? Look, the Bengals offense has been able to slide by with these weird quirks because they were winning. Yep. And part of why they were winning, the defense would give them drive after drive. Hey, you don't got to worry. They ain't going to score. If this were like the 2021, 2022 Bengals defense, New England would have scored like 3 points. They would have won this game. It would have been ugly as hell, but they would have won it because they got that one drive. But when the defense ain't doing that no more, now we start looking at the offense and wondering, hey, what's going on here? Like, you got Joe Burrow. Like, you 10 points?
The Pittsburgh Steelers with a power offense, a brilliant offensive plan, killing the dirty birds over there in Atlanta. Q warned me, and I was stupid in betting Atlanta. Q warned me. Q said that's
J-Rock the only one that picked Pittsburgh to win this one.
No, you.
I'm about to say you picked him.
No, he said him and Q, he said both of them. Yeah, you two were Q. It was you and J-Rock that were on
Atlanta.
Because Q said doesn't matter who Atlanta has, it's still Atlanta. It doesn't matter. Atlanta, and the only thing I said was this is a Tomlin type of game. Anyway,
talk about a quarterback upgrade. It looked like Desmond Ridder to me, dog. Like
TJ Watt looked good. TJ Watt was living in that
backfield,
that
like
defense.
2 penalties away from having like 4 sacks.
As always.
TJ Watt was the defense in general was amazing. Kept this team in it, kept this team and won the game. J-Rock, thoughts?
Oh yeah, let me take my because we just got finished coming off of work. Let me take the clothes off. But no, man, we had great defensive game. I think we had a great defensive game. I think they snubbed my man TJ on 2 strip sacks. He should have had the one the ref admitted that he made a mistake on. And so that he ended the game with 1. He recovered a fumble. He had like a couple tackles for loss. I mean, he was out there having his way, with the team. So offensively, I think that we struggled a little bit more than we should have. We had efficient running the ball. We was efficient running the ball, but where we rested in was having Justin Fields convert. I think on 5 first downs he converted with his legs, and that's what we've been missing since we had Big Ben. He had a couple good passes with GP down the field. He had a couple good passes to Frymouth, and then he did what he needed to do to win the game. The game ball goes to Chris Boswell, though, the only person to score on the team. with 6 field goals, and then stepping into the punter role when the punter got hurt. So I think they did a good job of managing the game, winning the game, getting out of week 1 healthy somewhat with a good win, and then off the week 2 versus Denver.
Q, what do you thought of this game?
I thought this was exactly the game that we thought we were going to get out of Pittsburgh and the Atlanta Falcons, partly because I trust Pittsburgh to be much more competent than the Atlanta Falcons.
I should have trusted you.
Who were starting Kirk Cousins. We all saw this could be a Tomlin game, right? Like the only outcome I think Atlanta would have won in this one if they would have got out fast and start throwing that ball downfield. But Pittsburgh's a really good defense. They're going to force it into that kind of game if you aren't an overtly talented team. And I don't think the Atlanta Falcons were that. I think we kind of upped what the Atlanta Falcons were in our mind because we thought Desmond Ridder was just the worst quarterback to ever exist. And that might be true. But the truth is that it ain't like them pieces was out here carrying Desmond Ridder to competence either. Like, it just is what it is. Bijan Robinson was not great in this one. 3.5 yards a carry. Nobody really ran the ball extremely well in this one. I think everybody, for the most part, that's non-quarterback in this game was under 4 yards a carry, which is the baseline for what you should get as a running back. So the run game was tight here. I thought both defenses at least showed up to a point. And Atlanta really should be concerned because the fact that they lost this game by what is essentially almost 2 scores. It felt like 2 scores when they got a lot of help from the refs. I mean, they should be really concerned about this one.
And not to cut into that, but not only that, but you had turnovers. We had 2 interceptions and a fumble that we recovered. So that's 3 turnovers, and like I said, you still really within 1 score. If you really go for 2.
Yeah. And the fact that Ray McLeod was like their number 1 targeted wide receiver in this one, okay, hey, I guess that's how they living. Look, when your running back and Ray McLeod got 12 targets between the both of them, that means Kirk Cousins has gone from captain check down to only check downs. Like, you know how they got the oops all berries? This is the oops all check down game from Kirk Cousins. Pittsburgh and Atlanta played last year, this is exactly how that game would have went.
Same score.
Exact same game. Some of the stuff I think for the Steelers did look a little bit more promising. They were able to get a lot more first downs. 16 first downs. That's a competent number from the offense. Didn't really execute well in the red zone. That's just going to be Justin Fields, though, right? Justin Fields is really good on the sideline throws. He's really good throwing the ball deep. He can get a big play. But once you start asking Justin Fields to process and hit tight windows like you would in the red zone, then it starts to become very apparent that Justin Fields is your quarterback, right? And there are some flaws with Justin Fields being there. It's just the truth of it. That's what he was in Chicago. It's what he's going to continue to be. The man's in his 6th year of NFL football. That's who Justin Fields is. So I don't really see a significant improvement coming there. The run game was a little bit concerning. It was serviceable for what they needed, but I wonder against a better team, will this be something that ends up being fine enough? Najee Harris, 20 carries, 70 yards. And there's a world where you can look at it and say Najee had 70 yards. 20 carries, 70 yards, so that's 3.5 a carry. That is bad. I talk about Air Force Ones and him being a generic running back. That ain't beating the charge. 20 carries, 70 yards, 3.5 a carry. That's not above average running back stuff. Now, they ran Justin Fields a lot, and that was probably their most successful guy on the field running the ball. 14 carries for Justin Fields. It makes me wonder, too, J-Rock, what's the offense going to look like if Russ is in there? Because Russ ain't running that ball 14 times.
Russ is a more accurate passer than Justin.
Yeah, but he's slow as dirt. Would you going to get 20 extra passing yards, but you're going to lose out on 60 rushing yards? Is it worth it?
And add probably 4 or 5 more sacks.
It's a reason why don't nobody want to start him. Did. Hey, bro, I think you're a better team with Justin Fields out there. I'm going to put that out there now before we know.
That's why I wanted Justin Fields out there, because you can box him in and you can try to play him a certain type of way, but he has the athleticism to make the certain type of plays.